Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Market Trade Group, and this is your end of day market video for Thursday, October 5th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So, clearly we had some interesting price action today. This market is definitely not dull. Today kind of felt like more of a push-pull type day. Really didn't like the price action, honestly, in the first hour of the day. It amazes me how quickly once the market chooses a direction, the carnage that could happen, very quickly. I was just noting, probably about 5 to 10 names that, like, holy cow, these names are down, 3, 5, 7, 10%. Just astonishing to see how quickly once the market decides the direction it wants to go in. And again, I'm not picking on any particular names. Like I was looking at Fastly this morning, right? Fastly I don't even think that there was any news on the, if there was news, maybe it got downgraded or something. It's not important. Like, usually you would think, if there was, some really big news on a stock, right, it would be down 5, 7, 8%. This thing was down 13% today. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just checked. There wasn't any bad news on this stock. I mean, so to me, that doesn't seem right to see names like this. And there was, like I said, this is just one example. I was just going through names this morning. I had some names on my watch list, and I was like, wow. And again, what's interesting about this too is just the speed that this is happening. Like by the time even like the first 10 minutes are over with, the stock's down 5%. Right. So I mean, that's real, like to be like, if you're in a name like that and it opens, you don't even have a chance, right? Especially like if you're holding like 5, 10 names or something like that, you're not even getting a chance really to get out of this name, and you have no choice but to basically, because again, names are doing this. They open down 5%, and then some of them just, they don't bounce back. So, my thought process on this is, opening up today's video with this is just to say, like, when you see things like this, it makes you feel like the downside may not be done yet. And I think just the jury's out in terms of whether or not, things are going to materialize and we're going to bounce. I mean, it is October 5th, right? We know, and I think everybody's been saying this, right? That the sentiment is pretty washed out, right? October is a very strong seasonal month, right? So there are some of those points that are on the bull side, I think, with sentiment at where it is at this point. But it doesn't mean that we go right up, right? It's always about probabilities, right? The market is about probabilities. So yeah, I'm looking for things, I'm looking at a number of setups, and I will go through a couple of those with you in this video. But there's too many things that still don't look right to me. So we do have a jobs report tomorrow. I think it's very interesting, the timing of this jobs report tomorrow, because there's a lot of things that are hinging right now, and again, I'll explain that in just a second. But for what they're looking at for tomorrow, it's 170. Private payrolls is 160, so a pretty low number. And I think this number, to me, again, it could be anything that is out of consensus, but I think average hourly earnings, why is that important, or why could that be the most important data point tomorrow in the jobs report? Because it's inflation, right? And that's what we're kind of looking at in terms of whether or not the Fed is going to be done, right? And where are the indications here? Right now we don't have another Fed meeting. We're getting a lot of Fed speakers now. I think we had 4 of them this morning, but there's a 22% chance that they raise interest rates in November. That's been pretty consistent. And then December, which for a while was showing a greater probability than November of another rate hike, has now slipped to about 13%. So there's people that are starting to, I'm listening to people that are around the country saying things are starting to weaken a bit. We'll see if that translates into a weaker jobs report. I think it will be interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the technicals, right? And again, I'm going to talk about this kind of, objectively, right? Not what I want to see, right? I'm going to tell you what it is, right? What, exactly, where we are. So yes, it was constructive that we took out this version point of control, and we're trying to bounce from here. However, there's just not a lot of confirmation, right? So what do I mean in terms of confirmation, right? Well, I'd like to see, and I went over this in yesterday's video too. You're going to hear me repeat a couple things, but prices sunken below the 5-period moving average now for about the better part of 3 weeks, right? And we have no confirmation that that price is changing here, right? So today was nice. Buyers fought back a little bit, right? From the lows of the day, right? There was some buying or short covering. I don't know what it is, and because we do have a report tomorrow, but we held where we needed to. So there's some positives and there's some negatives, right? Another positive is that we made a higher low than yesterday. And really where this is apparent, I think, when you look at the Qs, right? This is the chart that I've been kind of most focused on. Why have I been more focused on this? Because it's definitely been showing relative strength. I always will gravitate towards and look for opportunities in things that are holding up better when the market is weak, right? Because normally when the market does have some strength, the areas that were holding up when the market was not doing well are going to really fly once the market does gain some strength. So, again, look at the difference, and I'll just show the screen really quickly, but look at the difference between the S&P and the Qs, right? Much better looking. But we don't know how this is going to, this consolidation in here, right? And I could draw like a little bit of a like a triangle pattern or a pennant. I mean, we don't know if this is a bear pennant, or we don't know if we're going to get out of this, right? And really and what's really nice, and I talk about this all the time about using volume at price and using the MarketWebs, which give you that resistance. We were not able to crack into the value area yet. So I'm sorry, like as much as today was constructive and so forth, there's, we're not seeing it yet. And, and that's fine. If everybody wants to do a victory lap tomorrow and, if the market does go up tomorrow, that's great, but you will have a level to trade against, and that's 359.78, right? Also on the daily chart, right? And so same, very similar to the S&P, right? We made a higher low. That's good. However, we didn't take out the highs from yesterday. So, here's where we are, and we're sitting in the value area. Just as I went over in yesterday's video, I went over these two exact levels, and we haven't gotten above them. And again, maybe that jobs report might push this in either direction right here, but I would be very mindful of 359.93 and then to the downside 354.88. Right, so I will go through a number of names quickly. I have to leave a little bit early today, but yeah, I mean, there's some things that are looking pretty good, right? NVDA, which did not get above the highs from this week either, right? But notice the let's just go back to this just for a second. But it really held support very well earlier in the week, so that's something, right? But it's not above its 50-day moving average, right? You want, like, in my opinion, the 50-day moving average is so important for names that have been trending, right? For names that have been uptrending for a long time, right? You want to see price stay above the 50-day moving average, right? And right here, right? So yes, this is nice to see a little bit of a higher low and a bounce, but this is really a crucial area. Whether this gets back above the 50-day moving average is going to be make or break for NVIDIA. Notice too, it's tried a couple times and not able to reclaim it. Now again, sometimes it takes a little time and you have to be patient to see this out. But if this doesn't break above, this is going to go right back down to the bottom of value, most likely to 419. So I'm not trying to scare anybody, but you want to be prepared because things are, very, very close, right? How about Meta, which I continue to watch and I think is interesting. But this is not there yet. And we've been in a market for the last couple months, right? And this is where I think it's going to be really interesting, because we've been in a market where breakouts have been falling, have been not falling too, I guess, but failing all over the place, right? Now you've got your level to watch here, 306.30. This thing is really coiled, right? So that's why I'm really interested in this thing, because when you've got the moving averages all coiled, all wrapped around one another, it usually means that there's a big move coming, right? But it has not wanted to do it yet. Notice even at the back end of February, not February, September. Oh my God. I don't know where my mind's at. So at the back end of September, right? This this candle, you had a little bit of daylight here. Next day hit hard. Couldn't do it here, couldn't do it here. Then we get into October, couldn't do it here, couldn't do it here, couldn't do it here, couldn't do it today either, right? So something is up with this, right? Either there's a big seller in this thing who's trying to just unload some shares, or we need to really see the buyers come in. But I'll tell you that this is a must watch to see if this thing, set your alert to 306.30. And I could go through, stock after stock here, like Google. We talked about Google yesterday, made a nice recovery today. Didn't finish green on the day, but it's holding above all those short-term moving averages. So this looks good. I was listening to an interview with Mark Minervini yesterday. I think it was Richard Moglin who gave the interview, and he was talking about I don't know what time frame he was referring to, but he was just talking about if you're in names, don't sell them until have a stop, have a plan, whenever before you get into a trade, and then follow that plan that you set up for it. So if you got long Google, right, there's no reason, if you got long Google in here, there's no reason to sell it. I think younger traders, and I don't know, maybe not always just younger traders, but people are always afraid of a loss, right? You always have to think about, once you click the mouse and once you're in the trade, right, you should be thinking about your plan when you enter the trade. What's your stop price, right? So if it breaks your stop, then you're out, and that's the risk in your trade. But I think too many people, including myself, I'm guilty of this too, take off trades when they don't have to. Right? Because if you put on a trade, you put it on for a reason. You can't change your mind in the middle of the trade and say, "Oh, now I'm afraid I'm going to lose money," right? And I'm going to take myself out of a trade. So see it through, if you're in Google, because there's no sell signal yet. It's just kind of holding in there. And then I was going to talk about a few other names that, again, it's so interesting to me because so many of these names are just right at the cusp of, this name had a nice day today. Right, and it's right there. Now this did close above the value area, but it's close. Like, this thing's trying to resolve higher. This is Modine Manufacturing, right? And then another name, of course, that everybody likes to look at too is this VRT, right? It's one of these things where you just have to be patient. It's not doing anything really wrong. It's just not really doing anything that great either. But it is staying above all those all those moving averages as well. SMCI is another one too, right? This one has a little bit of work to do. Geez, the computer's slow today. So, but yeah, I mean, it's trying, right? It's trying. So again, we'll find out. I think we will know, possibly tomorrow, because you're going to get a lot of names that are just hinging on that break higher. I just wanted to talk about biotech for a minute too, because that was your best performing group. If you go back to my spreadsheet, right, best performing group today, really nice reversal. Where did this thing reverse off of? And I know some people were talking about call activity yesterday, and biotech had a really nice day. But the difficult thing about this is, do you take the money and run on something like this, because it is trending down? It'll be on my watch list. I think there's resistance there at 73.16, so you could push it a little bit more, and maybe see if you get a reversal in here. When you look at the bigger picture here in biotech, it's been one of the weakest areas, and I think that's partly because of interest rates too, and what's been going on. But you're going to have that overhead resistance at 76.38, which was the breakdown, right? It's one of those sectors that is broken down. Right, there's still a lot of areas that are in uptrends. Right, take for example like the XLC ETF. Right, this is the communications ETF, another one. This is hinging, right, on, that's my word of the day, if you haven't figured that out yet, 64.34, right? So remember, XLC they split up tech, a couple years ago, and you have Google in this one, you have Meta, you have Netflix in this, and then in XLK, the tech ETF, you still have Apple and Microsoft. So, but this one, is still hanging on to its uptrend, and by the way, the S&P is still, is right at the top of value too. Now, this is a developing weekly bar. We've got one more day. Let's see if we close above 42.57. All right, guys, that's it. That's really kind of setting the stage for tomorrow. And again, I'm not trying to say that the jobs report is going to be that important, but it's just very interesting that we do have some economics tomorrow, and there's so many areas that are just very close to breaking higher, but just haven't done it yet. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.